Rain hammered the pavement relentlessly that night, casting Crestwood into a somber, restless gloom. Inside the small police station, Sheriff Tom Reynolds, worn from another monotonous shift, worked diligently on his final patrol reports. The hum of fluorescent lights and the rhythmic tapping of his keyboard provided the only comfort in the quiet room. Despite his efforts to focus, an unsettling feeling tugged persistently at the edge of his consciousness, as if the night itself harbored some unseen threat. Just as Tom prepared to dismiss his unease, a faint but distinct noise disrupted the station's silence, hurried steps accompanied by the unmistakable scrape of paws against wet concrete. Tom paused, his fingers frozen above the keys as the sound grew louder, closer, until something softly thumped against the glass entrance door. Turning swiftly, Tom's breath caught in his throat. Standing soaked beneath the pale glow of the entrance lights was a dog whose gaze he immediately recognized, yet never expected to see again. It was Roxy, his retired nine partner, a loyal and fierce German shepherd who had stood faithfully by his side through countless dangers, rescues, and pursuits of justice. 2 years had passed since she'd retired from active duty, settling into a peaceful life with a family on a farm just outside town. But tonight, far removed from the comfort and safety of her retirement, Roxy had inexplicably appeared at the station, visibly distressed and trembling from exhaustion. Tom hurried to the door and opened it, and Roxy rushed inside, sliding slightly on the slick tile floor. Her movements were frantic as she circled around Tom, barking urgently and darting repeatedly toward the exit. Her eyes, wide and filled with a mixture of desperation and something deeper fear, pleaded silently with him for help. Kneeling quickly to her side, Tom's heart sank as he finally noticed the swollen belly beneath Roxy's soaked fur. Her breaths came in shallow, labored pants, clearly signaling advanced pregnancy and distress. Confusion and dread coursed through him as he wondered what could have driven Roxy to risk her safety and that of her unborn pups to race through the stormy night to find him. His mind filled with troubling questions. Had something happened to her adoptive family? Was there an imminent danger that she'd fled from? As Roxy tugged insistently at the hem of his pants, Tom understood clearly she hadn't merely come seeking shelter. She had come purposefully to him, driven by an urgent instinct he could not yet comprehend. A chill crept slowly up his spine as he realized this night had turned into something far beyond his expectations. Without hesitation, he grabbed his coat, ready to follow Roxy into the storm and toward whatever unknown threat awaited them. Stepping into the pounding rain, Tom knew only one certainty. The bond he shared with Roxy had drawn her back to him in her greatest moment of need, and he would do everything in his power to protect her and her unborn puppies, no matter what awaited them in the darkness ahead. The storm continued relentlessly, soaking Sheriff Tom Reynolds as he followed Roxy through the empty streets of Crestwood. Despite the heavy rain and her pregnant, exhausted state, Roxy moved with unwavering purpose, leading Tom toward the outskirts of town. He kept pace, his flashlight slicing through the shadows ahead as his heart hammered with anxious uncertainty. Questions surged through his mind, each more troubling than the last. Why had Roxy abandoned her quiet life on the farm and sought him out tonight? Was her new family in danger, or was there something even more sinister driving her desperate actions? Every now and then, Roxy would pause, turning back to ensure Tom was still with her, her eyes reflecting both urgency and trust, reinforcing the bond they had forged over years of partnership. Eventually, the pavement ended, replaced by a muddy trail that wound deep into a dense, shadowed forest. Tall pines loomed overhead, their branches bending and swaying under the rain's relentless assault, casting eerie shapes that danced across the narrow path. At the edge of a small clearing, Roxy abruptly stopped, her ears pinned back and body trembling with apprehension. Tom paused beside her, lifting his flashlight to illuminate the scene before them. The weak glow revealed a decrepit, abandoned house barely visible through the rain, its roof partially collapsed, windows shattered, and walls weathered by years of neglect. Thin, gray smoke drifted from the chimney, evidence that someone had recently been there, despite the dwelling's obvious state of disrepair. A chill snaked down Tom's spine as he noticed Roxy's posture shift from apprehension to aggression. She emitted a low, wary growl, eyes locked firmly on the house's darkened interior. Tom cautiously approached the structure, his footsteps cautious yet determined. The front door hung awkwardly from rusted hinges, groaning softly as he pushed it open. A sharp, metallic scent immediately filled his nostrils, the unmistakable odor of blood. His stomach tightened, instincts alerting him to imminent danger as he raised his flashlight. illuminating a chaotic interior scattered with debris and discarded furniture. Roxy pushed past him suddenly, her demeanor frantic yet focused as she rushed toward a shadowed corner, emitting a short, urgent bark. Following her gaze, Tom's flashlight revealed a pile of torn blankets on the floor, nestled within which lay 3 tiny, fragile puppies, clearly newborns and barely moving. Tom felt a momentary surge of relief, but his reprieve was short-lived. A dark, spreading stain beneath the blankets caught his attention, drawing his flashlight upward to reveal a man sprawled motionless across the floor, his clothing soaked crimson with blood. Tom's breath caught painfully in his throat, and his pulse quickened. The horrifying realization hit him hard. This wasn't just about Roxy's pups. Something terrible and violent had occurred here, and Roxy had instinctively sought him out, trusting him with both her safety and this devastating secret. Tom knew he had stumbled into the middle of something far more sinister than he had imagined, and he couldn't afford to leave until he uncovered the truth behind this gruesome scene. Back at the police station, Tom's mind spun relentlessly, trying to make sense of the horrifying scene at the abandoned house. As he gently placed Roxy's newborn puppies on a worn blanket on his office floor, his thoughts were interrupted by the sudden, harsh ring of the station phone. His pulse quickened as he picked it up, a tense silence filling the line before an unfamiliar voice, cold and deliberate, sliced through the static. "Sheriff, you should have stayed out of this," the caller warned, the words carrying a threat that sent chills crawling down Tom's spine. The connection abruptly ended, leaving him staring blankly at the silent receiver in his trembling hand. Anxiety gripped his chest. The voice had been calm yet sinister, implying Tom had inadvertently stepped into danger far beyond his understanding. A surge of adrenaline sharpened his instincts, pushing aside the growing fear as Tom quickly secured the station doors, double-checking locks, and scanning the quiet parking lot for any sign of movement. Roxy, alert and anxious, paced restlessly near her pups, ears twitching nervously at each faint sound. Tom knew her senses were sharper than his, her instincts always reliable, and the tension radiating from her confirmed his own unease. Suddenly, the station lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness for a brief, unsettling moment before buzzing weakly back to life. Tom felt a cold knot form in the pit of his stomach. The timing was too coincidental to dismiss as merely storm-related. Then, through the rain-streaked windows, he caught a glimpse of a figure standing motionless in the parking lot, partially obscured by a hooded coat. The stranger made no move, seemingly content to watch silently, making their intentions impossible to discern. Roxy growled softly beside him, body stiffened protectively over her puppies. Tom's breath quickened as he cautiously cracked open the station door, confronting the shadowy figure in a voice steadied by years of training. "This is private property. State your business or leave now." Without a response, the stranger slowly turned, melting into the shadows as quietly as they had arrived. Tom's heart pounded heavily as he closed and locked the door, the threat clear yet still mysterious. His thoughts raced first the gruesome discovery, then the disturbing phone call, and now this silent watcher lurking in the shadows. It was no coincidence Roxy had appeared tonight, he realized. She had deliberately sought him out because she was caught in something dark and dangerous. Tom glanced at Roxy, who looked back at him with eyes filled with an unsettling blend of trust and fear. She had brought him into her ordeal, relying on their deeply rooted bond to confront whatever unknown danger awaited. Resolving to protect her and the fragile lives now dependent upon him, Tom retrieved his firearm and steadied himself, mentally preparing for whatever might come next. Whoever had made that ominous call and whoever had been watching them from the darkness had sent a clear warning this was far from over. But Tom's resolve hardened as he looked at Roxy curled protectively around her pups. No matter the threat, he wouldn't back down. He would face this danger head-on, determined to uncover the truth that had drawn them both into this sinister mystery. Tom stood motionless at the station window, heart racing as his eyes scanned the rain-soaked parking lot, searching for any trace of the mysterious figure he'd glimpsed moments earlier. The shadowy stranger had vanished into the darkness, leaving behind an unsettling quiet that intensified Tom's anxiety. He glanced back at Roxy, who was curled protectively around her puppies, body rigid with alertness. Her ears perked sharply forward, eyes fixed steadily on the door as though expecting danger to burst through at any moment. Tom felt a deep unease twist in his gut. The events of tonight had unraveled rapidly, each incident escalating the stakes. The discovery of the dead man in the abandoned house, the threatening phone call, and now this elusive observer confirmed a chilling suspicion. Someone was watching them closely, aware of their every move and determined to remain hidden until ready to strike. Suddenly, a metallic creak echoed faintly from the rear of the station, pulling Tom's attention toward the back exit. Adrenaline surged through him, his instincts urging him into action. Drawing his weapon and gripping his flashlight tightly, he cautiously moved toward the hallway leading to the rear door. Roxy rose silently, her hackles raised as a low, menacing growl vibrated through her chest. Tom pressed his back firmly against the wall, listening intently to the faint sounds beyond the door. The soft scrape of metal, footsteps muffled by the rain, barely audible beneath the storm's distant rumble. Taking a deep breath, he cracked open the door, letting a narrow beam of light slice through the darkness outside. The back gate swung slowly on its hinges, partially open and swaying in the wind. Tom stepped outside cautiously, weapon raised and senses sharpened, but found nothing more than emptiness. The intruder vanished once again. Returning inside, he secured the door, though his nerves remained tense and raw. Whoever had come was testing him, probing his defenses and pushing him closer to a confrontation he knew was inevitable. Back at his desk, Tom felt the walls of the station close in around him. He replayed the night's events, piecing together clues that only deepened his anxiety. Roxy's arrival, the body in the abandoned house, the disturbing phone call, and now this unseen observer, it all pointed to a deliberate, calculated threat, targeting both him and his former Nine partner. He glanced over at Roxy, whose wary gaze mirrored his own tension, sensing that they remained in imminent danger. Her presence tonight was no mere coincidence. She'd returned because she trusted him implicitly to protect her and the vulnerable lives she brought into the world. Yet now, he was painfully aware of their exposure, trapped in the unsettling knowledge that someone unseen was stalking them, waiting patiently for an opportunity to strike. Tom knew he couldn't afford to wait passively any longer. He reached for his notepad, hastily jotting down each detail from the night's incidents, desperate to uncover a connection. His pulse quickened as the realization sank in fully. The shadowy figure outside, the mysterious caller, and the murdered man were part of a dangerous puzzle centered around Roxy. With resolve hardening, Tom decided he wouldn't let fear paralyze him. Instead, he would face this unseen enemy head-on, prepared for whatever darkness awaited them next. Tom moved cautiously through the dark woods, his flashlight cutting a pale, trembling beam through the relentless rain. Each step was cautious, his senses alert to every movement, every shadow cast by the swaying trees. The mysterious figure from earlier had led him deeper into the dense forest outside Crestwood, the trail of muddy footprints visible in the flickering glow of his flashlight. Tom's heart pounded fiercely as he emerged into a small, isolated clearing, illuminated faintly by the rain-filtered moonlight. At the clearing's center, a single object dangled ominously from the low branch of an ancient oak, a worn, familiar leather collar. He approached slowly, dread tightening in his chest as he reached out, fingers brushing against the weathered surface. Recognition hit him immediately. This collar belonged to Roxy, his loyal Nine companion, a relic from their years together on patrol. It was a chilling message, deliberately placed for him to find, leaving no doubt someone had carefully orchestrated this night of terror. A sudden rustling in the underbrush spun him around sharply, flashlight raised and weapon drawn instinctively. "Show yourself," Tom commanded, voice tight but firm, echoing through the clearing. Silence stretched momentarily before a figure stepped calmly into the pale beam of his flashlight, face partially obscured by a hooded coat. The man was older, his expression calm and unsettlingly composed, despite the tension thickening the air between them. In his hand was a folded piece of paper, held casually as though he were expecting Tom's arrival. "I warned you, Sheriff," the stranger said coolly, eyes glinting with a quiet, dangerous confidence. "You should have stayed out of this." Without lowering his guard, Tom demanded sharply, "Who are you, and what do you want?" The man offered only a cold, knowing smile in response before tossing the paper to the muddy ground at Tom's feet. Cautiously, Tom bent to retrieve it, never taking his eyes off the stranger. Unfolding the paper, Tom's pulse quickened further as he saw a faded photograph depicting a younger Roxy standing alongside another German Shepherd one that looked strikingly identical, almost as if they were twins. On the photograph's reverse side were scrawled chilling words, "They took everything from me." Realization crashed over Tom with sickening clarity. This wasn't simply about Roxy, it was personal. Someone was targeting her because of a past grievance, something deeply rooted in betrayal and loss. The stranger stepped back slowly, melting into the shadows as he delivered a final warning, a voice fading hauntingly into the night. "This isn't over, Sheriff. Be ready for what's coming." Tom lunged forward, flashlight slicing desperately through the darkness, but the man had already vanished, leaving only silence and unanswered questions behind. Clutching the photograph tightly, Tom turned back toward the distant lights of the station, anxiety gnawing at his resolve. Roxy had trusted him, drawing him into the heart of a dangerous confrontation with shadows from her past. Determined not to abandon her now, Tom knew he had to confront this threat head-on, unraveling the truth that had brought this darkness into their lives. Whatever lay ahead, he was ready to fight not only for Roxy and her pups, but to uncover the deeper secrets hidden beneath the surface of this sinister mystery. Returning to the safety of the police station, Tom carefully closed the door behind him, exhaustion pressing heavily upon his shoulders. Inside, the familiar surroundings felt strangely different, no longer a haven, but a fragile shelter from the unknown dangers lurking outside. He looked toward Roxy, who lay quietly beside her newborn puppies, eyes filled with wary trust and silent gratitude. In her gaze, Tom saw the reflection of their shared past, the countless moments when loyalty and courage had carried them through darkness. He realized clearly now that Roxy had brought him into a battle he could neither predict nor control, yet he also understood he would never let her face it alone. No matter what threats awaited them, his commitment to protect Roxy and her fragile family was unwavering. Their bond, forged by years of trust and sacrifice, had brought them together again, reminding Tom that true companionship meant standing firm even when facing life's greatest uncertainties. As the storm outside finally began to ease, leaving behind only gentle raindrops tapping softly against the station window, Tom reflected on the events of the night. Each moment had unfolded unpredictably, revealing harsh truths about loyalty, danger, and the lengths to which love would drive someone, even an animal, to protect what mattered most. Tom knew the battle ahead wouldn't be easy. Unseen enemies waited patiently in the shadows, driven by revenge and old grudges. But within that unsettling awareness lay a profound truth. Life's most meaningful connections are not defined by comfort or convenience, but by how fiercely we stand beside one another when tested by hardship. Roxy's courageous journey back to him symbolized something more significant than mere instinct. It was a powerful reminder of the depth of devotion and trust built over time. Tom felt humbled by her bravery, recognizing that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the determination to confront danger head-on, driven by love and loyalty. Ultimately, Tom understood the greatest battles we face are often not against the visible threats before us, but rather against our own hesitations and fears. Through Roxy's fearless example, he saw clearly that strength emerges not from isolation, but from the bonds we form and nurture throughout life. In reality, each person faces their own storms moments, when courage falters, when shadows feel overwhelming, and danger seems impossible to confront. Yet, just like Tom and Roxy, we must remember that facing these storms alone makes us vulnerable, while standing together creates resilience. The unbreakable bond between human and animal, like the one Tom shared with Roxy, mirrors the connections we cultivate with each other, reminding us to cherish and fiercely protect those relationships. As Tom knelt beside Roxy, gently stroking her damp fur, he silently vowed to confront whatever awaited them not out of obligation, but from genuine love. His promise echoed beyond this night, teaching everyone a vital lesson. When faced with life's trials, loyalty and courage are strongest when shared, giving us the strength to weather even the darkest storms together.